It was a typical Wednesday afternoon at Maplewood High School. The halls buzzed with the usual chatter as students shuffled between classes. Brightly colored posters adorned the walls, offering reminders of upcoming events and inspirational quotes to motivate the students. The scent of cafeteria food lingered in the air, mixing with the faint aroma of disinfectant from recent cleaning. But then, the crackle of the intercom shattered the normalcy, announcing a lockdown drill. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted. Students exchanged nervous glances, their casual conversations giving way to hushed whispers of uncertainty. Teachers ushered their classes into designated lockdown positions, guiding them with practiced efficiency. In room 213, Ms. Thompson's English class settled in, their chairs scraping against the linoleum floor as they formed a tight circle near the back of the room. Some students fidgeted nervously, tapping their feet or chewing on the end of a pen, while others sat with wide-eyed apprehension, their minds racing with thoughts of what might be happening outside. As the minutes ticked by, tension hung thick in the air. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional shuffle of feet or the distant sound of muffled voices echoing through the halls. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, amplifying the sense of unease that permeated the room. From his vantage point near the gymnasium, Alex Matthews, a junior at Maplewood High, caught sight of something unsettling. At first, it was just a flicker, a shadow dancing at the edge of his vision. He blinked, trying to dismiss it as a trick of the light, but as he focused on it, the figure materialized, weaving through the darkness with an otherworldly grace. Alex's heart skipped a beat as he watched the figure move, its form fluid yet sinister. It seemed to glide along the walls, its movements calculated and deliberate. A chill ran down his spine as he realized that this was no ordinary shadow, it was something else entirely. The figure's presence exuded a sense of malevolence that sent shivers down Alex's spine. He couldn't tear his gaze away, transfixed by the eerie spectacle unfolding before him. It was as if the very fabric of reality had warped, bending to accommodate this dark, otherworldly presence. Back in room 213, Ms. Thompson's class remained oblivious to the unfolding drama outside. Inside the cramped confines of the classroom, the students huddled together, their fear mounting with each passing minute. Some whispered words of reassurance to their classmates, while others silently prayed for the ordeal to end. Meanwhile, Alex watched in horror as the figure drew nearer, its shadowy form pulsating with an unnatural energy. He felt a knot form in the pit of his stomach, a primal instinct warning him of the danger lurking just beyond the walls of the gymnasium. As the figure approached, Alex could see the faint outline of what appeared to be arms and legs, elongated and twisted in a grotesque manner. His mind raced with questions, but there were no answers to be found. All he could do was watch, helpless, as the figure drew closer. The atmosphere in the gymnasium shifted palpably as the figure drew nearer. Whimpers and stifled gasps filled the air, the collective fear of the students almost tangible. Some buried their faces in their hands, unable to bear the sight unfolding before them, while others stared wide-eyed, their minds unable to process what they were witnessing. For what felt like an eternity, Alex remained rooted to the spot, his eyes fixed on the shadowy figure that now loomed just inches away. Time seemed to stand still as the world around him faded into obscurity, leaving only him and the figure locked in a silent, terrifying standoff. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished, dissipating into the darkness, as if it had never been there. The intercom crackled to life, announcing that the lockdown had been lifted, and slowly the students began to emerge from their hiding places, their minds still reeling from the ordeal they had just endured. In the days that followed, rumors spread like wildfire throughout Maplewood High School. Some claimed to have seen the figure in other parts of the school during subsequent drills, while others dismissed the sightings as nothing more than overactive imaginations. But for Alex, the memory of that encounter would linger, haunting him in the quiet moments of the night and leaving him questioning the reality of what he had witnessed. As weeks turned into months, life at Maplewood High School returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be in the aftermath of such a harrowing experience. But for those who had been there that day, the memory of the shadowy figure would remain etched in their minds, a reminder that sometimes the darkest horrors are the ones that lurk just beyond the edges of our reality. It was a crisp autumn day at Jefferson Middle School. The sound of laughter echoed through the corridors as students hurried to their next classes. But as the clock struck noon, the cheerful atmosphere was shattered by the piercing wail of the intercom, signaling a lockdown drill. As we filed into our designated classrooms, a sense of unease settled over the school. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously, casting long shadows down the empty halls. Little did we know, this drill would soon plunge us into the depths of fear and uncertainty. From my seat near the back of the classroom, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The air seemed to thicken with each passing moment, suffocating me in its oppressive embrace. And then I heard a faint whisper, barely audible above the thrum of my racing heart. At first, I dismissed it as my imagination running wild. But as the minutes stretched into hours, the whispers grew louder, filling the room with an eerie chorus. I glanced around, searching for the source of the sound, but my classmates were just as perplexed as I was. Then from the corner of my eye, I saw a faint flicker of movement near the entrance to the basement. My heart skipped a beat as I realized the whispers were emanating from the depths below. Despite the knot of fear tightening in my chest, curiosity got the better of me. With trembling hands, I crept towards the door, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. As I descended into the dimly lit stairwell, a sense of dread washed over me, chilling me to the bone. The basement was unlike anything I had ever seen. The air was heavy with the scent of mildew, and the walls were lined with shelves stacked high with forgotten relics of years past. But it was what lay at the far end of the room that sent a shiver down my spine, a series of rusted metal cages, their doors hanging open as if beckoning me inside. As I approached, the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a cacophony of voices. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back, but something compelled me to press on. With each step, the whispers intensified until they were practically deafening, drowning out all rational thought. And then, just as suddenly as they had begun, the whispers ceased, leaving behind an eerie silence that was almost deafening in its intensity. I stood there, frozen in place, unsure of what to do next. It was only when the intercom crackled to life, signaling the end of the lockdown drill, that I snapped out of my trance. With trembling hands, I stumbled back up the stairs, desperate to escape the suffocating confines of the basement. But even as I emerged into the harsh light of day, the memory of that encounter lingered, haunting me like a ghost. And as I looked back at the basement door, I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed once more. It was a dreary morning at Ridgemont High, the kind of day that seemed to weigh heavily on everyone's shoulders. As the first bell rang, signaling the start of another school day, Students shuffled lethargically to their classrooms, their minds still half asleep. But as the clock ticked closer to noon, the atmosphere shifted. A sense of unease settled over the school, like a storm brewing on the horizon. And then, without warning, the intercom crackled to life, its sharp tone cutting through the silence like a knife. Attention, all students and staff, the principal's voice echoed through the halls. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please proceed to your designated lockdown locations immediately. As we huddled together in our designated classroom, the tension in the air was palpable. Outside, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for whatever came next. Little did we know, the worst was yet to come. From my vantage point near the window, I watched as the school grounds fell eerily silent. The usual hustle and bustle was replaced by an oppressive stillness, broken only by the distant sound of sirens echoing through the streets. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the silence was shattered by a blood-curdling scream. I turned to see Mr. Thompson, the school janitor, stumbling down the hallway, his eyes wide with terror. "He's gone. He's gone," he cried, his voice trembling with fear. I saw it take him. As the other students and I exchanged panicked glances, Mr. Thompson collapsed to the ground, his body racked with sobs. It was clear that whatever he had witnessed had shaken him to his core. For hours, we remained huddled in that classroom, the fear and uncertainty weighing heavily on our minds. Outside, the world seemed to descend into chaos, the distant wail of sirens growing louder with each passing moment. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the intercom crackled to life once more, signaling the end of the lockdown. As we emerged from our hiding spots, the reality of what had transpired began to sink in. Mr. Thompson was nowhere to be found, his disappearance shrouded in mystery. Despite a thorough search of the school grounds, there was no sign of him anywhere. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. In the days and weeks that followed, rumors spread like wildfire, each more outlandish than the last. Some claimed that Mr. Thompson had been taken by a malevolent spirit, while others whispered of a government conspiracy. But no matter the story, one thing remained clear: Ridgemont High would never be the same again. And as I looked out at the empty hallway, I couldn't shake the feeling that something dark and sinister lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike once more. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the memory of Mr. Thompson's disappearance lingered like a dark cloud over Ridgemont High. The once bustling hallways now felt haunted, the echoes of his cries still ringing in our ears. Despite the efforts of the authorities, there was no sign of Mr. Thompson. His family, friends, and colleagues were left to grapple with the agonizing uncertainty of his fate. In the absence of answers, speculation ran rampant. Some believed that Mr. Thompson had simply vanished of his own accord, unable to bear the weight of his own demons any longer. Others whispered of foul play, suggesting that he had stumbled upon something sinister lurking within the walls of Ridgemont High. But as the months stretched into years, the truth remained elusive. Mr. Thompson's disappearance became just another unsolved mystery, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones by students and staff alike. And yet, despite the passage of time, the memory of that fateful day still lingered in the hearts and minds of those who had witnessed it. For in the halls of Ridgemont High, where shadows danced and secrets lurked in every corner, the truth was often stranger than fiction.